Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wizard. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, Noah Finau and Tom Hern. Why did you want to make your show The Panthers?
I guess it's the Polynesian Panthers and what the premise of the show being the Dawn Raids, the kind of climax of the show being the Dawn Raids. It's a big part of our history here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. But it's a history that not many of us knew. It's not taught in our schools. It's kind of a black mark on our history. The perception of New Zealand is that we're this amazing green country and it's the best place on earth. But now everyone's got their scars, and this is one of our scars as a country that we need to address, and we need to talk about, and we need to let people know about it before we can move forward. So that's why for me it was an important for me to be a part of it, because it is a very crucial part of our history as Polynesians here in New Zealand that migrated here as children of immigrants coming to a foreign country. It's a universal theme. So it was important for us to tell it in a way that engages the new generation of Pacific and New Zealanders now today to carry on the fight.
For me, I think I'm always looking for exceptional characters in the stories that I'm involved in. And also ideally stories that have, a greater value to them beyond just pure entertainment. And this story definitely had both of those. Some of these characters are almost Shakespearean in terms of their complexity, and it's almost one of those cases where you go, fact is stranger than fiction. Like some of the stuff about these real characters you can't believe is true. People think we made it up. Will Ilola here, our young protagonist in the series, you'll see his father was butler to the Governor General of New Zealand. He was the first university student out of his group of friends. He was a street gangster. He was, from Tongan nobility bloodlines. These are sort of things that it sounds like you would make up for a screen production, but it's all true. So, when I started learning about the story, it was a no-brainer for me. It had all of the ingredients.
Okay, and how many people that we see in the show are based on real life people, and some of them have to be just there for dramatic purposes, right?
Yeah, most of them are real characters, but there's a few that we've introduced that are like hybridizations or of our own imagining. So, for example, Havili, the Tongan cop, who's quite a fun character. He's kind of a combination of 3 or 4 different people that we came across through our research. And what we tried to do is, if there was a character that we felt like could be arguably a negative depiction, or a depiction that would defame or not uplift someone's mana or their integrity, then we would switch it into being a fictitious character and kind of play with it a little bit more.
Interesting. And tell me, how rigorous was the research process, and at what point do you kind of let it go for the sake of the creative process?
Yeah, good question. Well, look, I think like your philosophy as a screenwriter or director should always be to start with the homework and get the foundation really strong. Like, know the truth before you choose to veer away from that. And the research on this one was extensive. A lot of reading over a 6-year period, interviews with the real Panthers, interviews with politicians, all a 360-degree view of 1975 in Aotearoa, but then also researching contemporary issues now. Anything that we could pull on that would help draw it back to being current and relevant now. Because one thing we really wanted to steer away from was making this like history lesson or a biopic. We just wanted to make a compelling drama series that stands on its own 2 feet in 2021. So yeah, part of that was, researching the Black Lives Matter movement, obviously following Trump's time in power closely. There's a lot of parallels there between Trump and the Prime Minister of that time in New Zealand, Mr. Piggy Muldoon. So Yeah. Very heavily researched. But the second part of your question, when do you step away from it? We boldly stepped away from the history and various things. I mean, for a start, we've got a rapper pretty much from the future who is our kind of abstract narrator. A bunch of our fashion kind of defies the strict rules of the period. So what Noor and I would talk about is we would go, do we pick the one that is more historically correct, or do we pick the one that's got more swag? And we had always picked the one with more swag. So yeah, that's how we made our decisions.
Funny. That's good stuff. So how did you two link up, and how do you define one another's creative strengths?
Oh man, it was very fortuitous. It was persistence actually, because Tom, like he was just saying, had been on the project for 6 years. So I came in the last kind of 18 months to the project, but murmurs had already been going around the industry that Tom was working on this project on the Polynesian Panthers, and pretty much anyone that was Pacific Islander in the industry was like, man, we need to get on that. So I slid into Tom's DMs and I was like, hey bro, I'm your guy. Like, if you want to make this mean, you've got to get me on. But that he hit me with the scene on that one. But fast forward a few months, he emailed me, and I was up late at night, and I read it, hollered back straight away. We linked up, and pretty much kind of one of our first creative decisions we made was that musical element to it, the rapping side of it, because we quickly learned that we were both heavily influenced by hip hop, much in the same way that the Polynesian Panthers were heavily influenced by the Black Panthers. So that was kind of a device that we used as like kind of a Greek chorus sort of thing. But there were heaps of those kind of little, and we both have an acting background. So that was really beneficial in the creative process, because we would write scenes, workshop them kind of as actors, and then put it in. And like we've acted out like the whole series. Like I can honestly say that we've walked and blocked out every scene in that script and in that series. And thankfully, the actors did a better job than us.
Hey, speak for yourself, Sully. Speak for yourself.
But no, it's been a real amazing process working with Tom. Like we've just clicked well, and this piece of the work as well, I think helped the material, helped in fostering that creative synergy that we had. But it's been awesome, man. Like I've thoroughly enjoyed the process. And Tom's obviously been around the game a bit more than me, so it's been an awesome opportunity for me to kind of shadow and learn from the bro. And he's been awesome and generous with his energy as well.
Tell me about the cast.
Sure thing. Yeah, I mean, one of the awesome things about the cast on the Panthers is they're predominantly young and new to screen acting. Like a lot of these guys, it's their first ever screen production, like acting in front of the camera. Others, they might have had a small role, but nothing to this extent. And I think what that creates on set is a sense of excitement and discovery. And when harnessed, I think that can be a rich, creative environment. So yeah, I just loved the fact that our cast, the 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're playing characters of that age. It's not like a Dawson's Creek scenario where you've got 40-year-olds playing 19-year-old characters. That was always important to us. We wanted that youthfulness, that youthful spirit, because the Polynesian Panthers themselves were that age. They were young people out trying to change the world. And when you think about yourself when you were 18 or 19, like that's quite the proposition, to actually become an activist or a radical and make an impact. But yeah, we were lucky enough around that young cast to have some really experienced practitioners as well. Beulah Kuale, who was a series regular on Hawaii 5-0, and one of the leads in Thank You for Your Service with Miles Teller a couple of years ago, which got great notices. He's a very prominent, well-known Samoan actor. And then Frankie Adams as well, who's quite well-known to international audiences. She was on the show. So we had a combination of fresh, exciting new talent and then some more experienced players to help kind of set the standard of professionalism on set. So it was a great balance.
Okay, so I'll ask sort of the obvious question. How is the Polynesian struggle similar to what African Americans endure in the United States? And is the situation relatively the same today?
Yeah, I would say, and then you should jump in too, Noah. I would say it's definitely not the same struggle. I think, and it would be wrong to say that. And that's actually an issue that even comes up in the series, where Will's mum challenges Will and says, "Hey, what's all this stuff about all of this activism? Like, this is in America. You don't have the same history as the United States, like, don't get this wrong." So I think it is very different down here, but I guess, obviously being a minority and facing prejudice and racism in different shapes and forms is very much part of our history in Aotearoa by way of Māori and Pacific Islanders experiencing that, and also now a new wave of other immigrants as well. And definitely through the process of making the show, we've realized that this is still very much a problem in our country. And even some of the responses to the show itself are extremely ignorant and racist, and so they further just strengthen the case, I guess, for making a show like this. What would you add, Docs?
Yeah, no, I think Tom nailed it. Like, although we have very different experiences, there are also similar things from not only an American context, but just like a migrant minority, children of immigrants perspective of parents wanting the best for their kids, but their kids not growing up in the environment of their homeland and being influenced by all these different factors in their new environment, and they make their own identity, choose their own path, I guess. And that struggle of fitting in somewhere where you don't naturally fit in, where they don't want you to fit in, is a universal issue for a lot of migrants and minority groups. But those themes are there are a lot of, although it is set in New Zealand and very much anchored in our political climate and our issues and things, the themes are very much universal, I guess, through that we do explore. Like, I don't think it'll be hard for any audience member internationally to watch it and go, oh, that kind of stuff happens in our backyard as well. And even though it was 50 years ago, as Tom alluded to, like, man, you just got to look at the Facebook comments on some of our promos and stuff to realize, like, oh man, there are still some scared people out there that are afraid of new things, of different, of change, of just being open to, this is the world we live in, man, and just be good, have a good heart, have a good energy.
Have you talked to Taika Waititi about the show?
We both actually know Taika. Taika's an old friend of mine. I've known him since he was an emerging comedian / fashion designer and artist in Wellington 20 plus years ago, and we always keep in touch about what we're working on, and good friends and very supportive. So yeah, he's a great guy, and at the moment Noah is actually writing and producing a film with Taika's company, so they're about to go into production, right, Docs?
Yeah. So he's executive producing that, and unfortunately we're in lockdown, so we've down tools. So, but he's like most Kiwis and New Zealanders in the industry. We're a comparatively small industry compared to overseas, so everyone knows what everyone's up to, and we're quite a supportive bunch down here. As they say, rising tides raise all ships. So most of the time.
Yeah, props to Taika, man. Like, just mad respect to him for paving the way for all of us in Aotearoa, but also for Indigenous storytellers around the world. Like, the amount of storytellers that he's lifted up through his journey is remarkable, and just proud to watch his pathway to stardom and mean success. So yeah, cheer, Tax.
Yeah, he's super cool, and that makes sense. Obviously, that you guys, it's a smaller community. You guys know each other, and that's awesome, though. That 20 years, that's a long time. I just wanted to say, last night when I finished the show, and I really enjoyed watching the 3 episodes. When I walked down the stairs, I wanted to tell you guys, the audience had a nice glow about them. But they had a good time. So I thought I would share that with you. And are you excited that by the fact that the movie played at TIFF? Or, sorry, the TV show played at TIFF?
Oh, man. It's bittersweet, like super excited that it's over there in Toronto, such a prestigious film festival. And to be honest, hand on heart, I personally, it was never in my stratosphere that something I would work on would get to that kind of level. And then the fact that it has gotten to that level and I'm doing it all through digitally is like, damn, it would have been mean to be there. But no, honestly, it's a huge privilege and blessing to be able to be the first New Zealand TV series to premiere at such a prestigious film festival. And it's even because Tom's been there a number of times, so he's hearing from him just makes it like, man, why COVID? Why?
Yeah, it's definitely like Toronto, the best audiences in the world, I would say, like from going to a number of festivals. Like I love those audiences. Toronto's so engaged. So they're such cinephiles and just come with so much energy and positivity. So that's awesome, man, to hear that there was a buzz in the cinema. Because like Noah, it was cool imagining the space and the series playing, but it's not quite the same as being there in the room,
They had a nice glow. When you had a nice meal or something nice just happened, it was like a pleasant vibe.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah,
it's nice for me to share that with you too. So how and when will the masses be able to see the Panthers?
Yeah, so we're just working out all of our distribution plans internationally at the moment. In the coming weeks, we should have announcements about distribution into North America, Australia, and Europe, all going well. So very exciting. We are in the midst of the New Zealand release, the local release of the series at the moment, and it's already breaking records. It's actually the most streamed show in the history of the platform that we're on, TVNZ On Demand down here, which is pretty remarkable. And yeah, now with TIFF off the back of that, we'll start making some more announcements. So stay tuned.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed it, and good luck with everything else in season 2, everything else in your future.
Thank you,
thanks,
Michael.
Michael.